Well, hello, students. I'm surprised to see so many of you here this morning. It is a foggy, kind of snowy day outside, and I'm surprised you wanted to come and listen to an old woman's stories about her youth. Where to begin? I am looking out the window. It reminds me of some of my youth and childhood. I, like you, loved going to school and learning. When I was young, we girls, not the boys, but girls, went to school with the other Polish children. I guess what we call here in America public school. So we got to study Polish history, not so much anything about our Jewish history. Girls were not allowed to read the Torah or study the Talmud. So we were allowed to go to school. There was a woman at the time when I was still in school who started Jewish schools, day schools for girls, so that we could study Jewish tradition and history and culture. She got the government to allow us to go to those schools in addition to going to public school. Regardless, I loved school. I loved learning and reading, and didn't matter to me which school I went to. It was wonderful. I also was taught to sew and cook and bake as part of what we learned as young girls, so that we would make good wives. My mother helped my father with his business, and I also helped with the business. I found that I was very good at business, and I loved going and helping my father in his shop. It was wonderful. My friends, my school friends, were not all Jewish, obviously, because we went to school with all the other children, Christians alike. And my father had many Christian Polish customers in his shop. But during the Depression, he lost a great many customers. He had to lower his prices to keep the non-Jews coming into and trading with him. It was a lot. I was young when all of this occurred, and traditions were changing at the time, where there weren't so many marriages that were matched by the parents, and girls were not getting married quite so young as before. However, the town that we lived in was not too small. It was not large like Warsaw, but we were hit very hard by the recession. So my father found a suitable husband for me when I was very young, 15, 16 years old. And he was older, maybe 10 years older, 10, 11 years older, in his 20s. To me, he was old because, 10 years when you're a teenager is a lot. It's, I thought, ooh, here I'm marrying this old man. But he was in his 20s. Some of you are in your 20s. You're not getting married right now, which is so wonderful because you have that freedom. But girls, and especially Jewish girls in Poland during the early 20th century, we did not have those freedoms as much as you do. So I was matched to this man who was a very successful businessman. He was a merchant, and he had made it through the recession pretty well. In those days, the father provided a dowry. We didn't have much for dowry, but he scraped together some things because he was a tradesman. So he scraped together enough, and the match was made. I was not happy because I had to leave school. I could no longer study with in the Jewish school for girls, and I could no longer go to regular school. I did, however, continue to read, but I was married, and I set up a home, and again, I was 15, 16 years old, very young. And but I was already skilled, and because I was smart, I could help my husband with his business. I got pregnant very quickly, and had my baby boy, my Aaron. It was the joy of my life. A life where I did not have much control. I carried some anger with my father and my mother. I loved them, but I was not happy with them for making me marry so young and give up my lessons. It was a fairly decent seamstress, and I could bake and cook, keep a house. I wanted for my Aaron to have a fabulously wonderful life, to be smart, to learn and be curious, and to have more of a life than I was able to have at that time as a young woman. I think about that, and so then I'm married at 16 and having a baby at 16, and it was it took my youth away from me. Might be why I loved my Aaron so much. Aaron, because he meant everything to me. And I could live my youth through him. I trusted, but not. I did not trust a lot because I think that comes from a lack of control. No control over one's life. You young women have so much more control over what your life is going to be like, what your life is like. I'm sometimes envious of your freedoms. Before we were taken, before the war, I was happy. I helped my husband build his business even more. We lived a very comfortable life, and I'm not unhappy about that. We had a very nice home, and Aaron was never lacked for food or clothes, neither did I. I was a part of the community. Jews. Back then there was a lot of anti-Semitism then too. Even though we traded and went to school and knew many Polish Christian people, I wouldn't say we were friends, but there was no animosity. We did not hate each other. We lived in peaceful harmony before the war. In just as that short span of years. Before that, there were pogroms. People were run out, arrested, their businesses taken away, killed. But there were those years where we peacefully coexisted, and that was good. I often think about the children I went to school with, and their parents who traded with my father, and then traded with my husband in our store. They were friendly and friends. But I missed that rest of my education. Might be the reason that when I came to America, I started this school for women, young women. Partly because as I said, I am good at business. I like having a business and running things. And I wanted young women to learn a skill or a trade, which is what saved my life. Partly what saved my life during the war. But before that, I wanted to get rid also of that anger inside me for people taking away my control, having no control over my life. Also being able to trust other people. That came very hard for me when I was young, because my parents loved me. I have no doubt that my husband loved me, but there was no respect. There was no I was not seen as a person until I got to the camp. I was 24 years old, already had an 8-year-old son. So I had grown up a lot, I thought, but I was still very naive because I had been sheltered and I had been basically told what to do, all of my life. That wore on me. I wanted to be seen and heard, and I was not until the war. Until I met those fabulous women that I lived and worked with in the camp. I grew up there because I did not grow up before that. I was not allowed to be anything other than a daughter or a wife or a mother or the cook, housekeeper, assistant at the store. So my talents, my intelligence never were seen before then. So it made me angry inside, unfulfilled. The only thing that fulfilled me was my son Aaron. That was he was my life, my whole life, and he saw me. He looked at me. He knew me where no one else did. My husband married me because I'm sure he thought I was pretty, and he saw something there. But I was a girl, not a woman. He married a girl, and there was no respect. I think about that sometimes. I'm sorry, I get a bit emotional about those days before. But I want you to understand that I was not unhappy, but these were the things that I was feeling in my heart. Is that all of you young women, I'm sure, feel about yourselves as you're mature, as you're aging, that you did when you were a teenager, when you were young, a young woman. Can you even imagine having to marry and leave school, marry a man 10, 11 years older than you? I always go back and forth because I don't remember actually how much older he was than me. He was just old in my eyes. So when you look at this age, you're in your 20s, and you would look at a man in his 30s, mid-30s, you're probably thinking, oh, he's old. I don't want him, go away. So as a teenager looking at someone in their 20s, I was the same. It was like, oh, he's old. I want him to go away. So, but he didn't. And when I was in the camp, one of the young men who was in the dormitory with Aaron, he was so cute. But, I did not want to have a relationship with someone there when you didn't know if you were going to live or die the next day. And I was young, in my mid-20s, and I had never really lived a life before that with just me. So it no longer makes me sad to think about some of those things, because it helped me grow. I became who I am today because of that. I was not, never had that opportunity before. I often wonder if it had not happened, what my life would have been like in Poland as a Jew. Maybe under Russian rule, which happened, or just as a Pole. I don't know. I cannot even imagine what that would have been like. I will say that under German rule or Russian rule, it would never have had the opportunities that I had coming to America. But that is who I am. That is who I was. But you will learn, all of you, as you grow, that every experience shapes you and makes you who you are. I had not a lot of experiences before the war. I just was a child and was always told what to do, who to do it with, and my escape was reading and even sewing and learning skills and crafts. I always enjoyed learning, and throughout my life after the war, I had so many wonderful experiences. And I am so lucky to have been able to live this long. That is all I have about me. I want to learn more about you, because you have a future. I want you to live your life and be the most you can be, and be happy, and do not allow these anger and resentments to grow and stay in your heart, because I know everyone has them. I finally got rid of mine, and it allowed me to live a long and happy life. I wish that for you as well. Questions?